Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll take a look at them after round 1. Today's deck list is a rather interesting build of Death's Shadow, which comes to us from Willard G. Now, Death's Shadow, on paper, is a 13/13 for 1 mana, which is pretty cool, but you do have to jump through a little bit of hoops. And we are going to deal some damage to ourselves with things like Blood Crypts and Fetch Lands, and you know what? At some point, we might even Lightning Bolt ourselves in the face, make our creatures playable. Thoughtseize can also help with this as well, as can Eidolon. So this is going to be a relatively interesting deck list, and we're not all in on Death's Shadow for this sort of effect. We also have Scourge of the Skyclaves. Now, this is a pretty powerful card, maybe more powerful than Death's Shadow in some situations. However, whereas Death's Shadow checks your own life total, Scourge of the Skyclaves checks both players' life totals. So you want to be hurting yourself, and you also want to be hurting your opponent. And we're going to have some things like Vexing Devil coming in hot to help support the cast. And we've got a spicy one here in the form of Footfall Crater. It's an enchant land, and you can tap the land to make target creature gain trample and haste until the end of turn, which is pretty gross with some of these very large creatures, and that can kind of function as sort of a combo kill. As far as the sideboard goes here, the cards are relatively narrow, with matchups like 8-Cast and Reanimator very much in mind, although we do have a couple of things that can hurt real good, maybe on both sides of the battlefield. While I'm very skeptical about Footfall Crater, I don't think the rest of the deck looks too bad. I think I am going to go ahead and opt to play the games in the tournament practice room, because I'm not going to lie to you, I think the Footfall Craters are going to go. Like, I get that they have Cycling 1, so, like, they're not the end of the world, and they technically can also, like, be a permanent type for Dragon Rage Channeler. I don't really think this effect is powerful enough powerful enough for Legacy, but I'm willing to be proven wrong here. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the games. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. If you find yourself being a regular and you want to support me financially and you're in the position to do so, please consider becoming a YouTube member, following me on Patreon, or doing a donation deck list to get one of your own sweet decks on the channel. Let's battle. Okay. Is this hand reasonable? It's very good if I draw a second land for this card. Otherwise, I have Dragon Rage Channeler with like a Snuff Out to back it up. How many lands does this deck actually play? 18. Not a lot. So maybe 1 landers are going to be approximately average. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. Play Dragon Rage Channeler, and then hopefully I get like a Snuff Out target. Because if Snuff Out is not good in this match, it's gonna be rough. I think I'm willing to keep the 1-lander here, mostly because if I Chain Lightning my opponent, I can try to use this to dig for the second land. A swamp? Basic swamp at that. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, this is bad. I'd Snuff Out my own Dragon Rage Channeler. I don't think I'm willing to do that. Try to hit a second land drop here. Alright, I missed my land drop, but I can just kill the Lily. So that's not the end of the world. However, these Snuff Outs are not going to be looking good here. These are maybe like fodder for him to Turok, or like I'll hold him in hand for Liliana pluses. Alright, Douthie Voidwalker. Okay. New Dragon Rage Channelers, not bad. I've got 2 card types in graveyard here. And this is... Oh no, it's not non-artifact. It's not a true terror. So if my opponent has something like Urza Saga tokens, it can technically hit those. Ooh, Murderous Rider. Sure. I think I'm just going to die to missing land drops here. Yeah, alright. I think the combination of missing my land drops, 2 Dragon Rage Channelers getting answered, and my opponent being on a black deck all kind of made this look rough. These Snuff Outs have got to go. I guess that can be Inquisition in its place. I guess that's what I'm doing. Don't have a lot of very generic sideboard cards. My sideboard cards are very pointed here. Okay, this hand is totally reasonable. I'll keep this one. Let's do a little damage to ourselves, shall we? And start off on a Dragon Rage Channeler. I can turn these Death Shadows on relatively quickly. You keep a Zero Lander? Alright, I don't really understand that. Sometimes you play against lower caliber players in the tournament practice room. That just is what it is. My hand's not great. I think I keep it. I'm mostly keeping it because I'm worried about the land count of my deck. Especially against an opponent that might have Wasteland or Sinkhole or Smallpox, anything of that nature. Alright, what do you have for me? Nothing immediately, which means I probably get to Inquisition the best thing here. I'm not going to play a fetch land this turn. In case my opponent has Dark Ritual Opposition Agent that they fire off right here. Is this the Swamp Thing? That's a Swamp Thing. I probably take the Sudden Edict and risk the Death Shadow dying to Hymn to Turok here. I think I'm fine with that. The vast majority of the time, I'm discarding lands to him, which is fine. Seems super weird to me to run Defile. Yeah, especially, like, given that sort of stuff. Like, if you have lands that aren't contributing towards the count for Defile, like, why are you playing that card? Yeah, I lost the only card in my hand that I cared about. That is unfortunate. Okay. Here, go ahead and fetch around an opposition agent. Go ahead and damage myself. Blood Crypt, yes. And we'll see where this goes. Stealthy Voidwalker is actually probably actively good for me. A Dragon Rage Channeler. I'll play that. I'll also shock myself here. Play this. It's just a 1/1 right now. I think that's fine. I'll let my opponent hit me for 3 with Stealthy Voidwalker, then shock myself with Blood Crypt to make a giant creature. Opponent will probably use their Defile on Dragon Rage Channeler here. After punching me for 3, which I'm good with. Ooh, they will not. Do I want to Chain Lightning Stealthy Voidwalker? My life total is going to go relatively low. Yeah, maybe I want to go ahead and do that. I'm tempting fate a lot less if that happens. Yeah, that goes into the graveyard. Yep, I mean, you should have done this at sorcery speed on your turn so that I didn't get to look at an extra card. But that's fine. Pay the bonus life. Play a Death Shadow. Got a 5/5, that's a 4-turn clock. And I've got a Fireblast that I can pop off at some point. I'm not willing to just use this card. Like, I could have used this card to put an instant in my graveyard on my turn. But that's not really great. Yeah. Turok is absolutely fine with me. I will bash in for 5. I've got the Superior Clock here. Not by a lot, but I've got the Superior Clock. The Fire Blast is some pretty gross insurance. Ooh, alright. You take 2 from this. I'll Fire Blast you in response. I think that's okay. Target you. Sacrifice 2 mountains. Opponent goes to 6 here. And that's a concession. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and they've got some really fun things in the works. In addition to being one of the premier decklist sites out there, they are also going to become a social media website as well. Now, this isn't going to replace Twitter, and this is still something that's in development. It's not finished, there's no timeline for when exactly this is going to be released, but at some point, you'll be able to use Moxfield as a place to talk about Magic the Gathering. This is a mock-up, and keep an eye on Moxfield. They're doing big things. Alright, I have kept a 7-card hand, which can get pretty aggressive in terms of Death Shadows. My opponent is currently mulliganing to 5, which has me a little bit worried, because my hand's not super good versus combo. Okay, my opponent has kept on 5. I'm going to immediately use Mishra's Bauble to just get a look at what they're playing immediately. Is Wasteland, which tells me I just want to play this and not crack immediately. My opponent's kind of a fair deck that has mulliganed pretty aggressively. There's Wooded Foothills, Forest and Wasteland, maybe a Knight of the Reliquary, Life from the Loam type deck. Ox Diamond discards Taiga. Could be lands. Could be lands. I think I need to make these as large as possible. So, like, I am cognizant of the fact that my opponent has revealed a Wasteland, and I think I just have to fucking deal with it. Ow, ow, ow. Another Blood Crypt. I think I play this one this turn. And Thoughtseize my opponent. Use the Thoughtseize to get a touch deeper in my deck. Absolutely do not want that. Urza Saga and Wasteland. That is a whiff. But next turn, I can play 2 very large Death Shadows, even through a single Wasteland. And if my opponent just Wastelands me, like, this is a good turn cycle for me. Alright, opponent willing to take some damage there. Exploration would be scary. Fuck. That allows both Urza's Saga and Wasteland to happen this turn. It's not necessarily the end of the world, but it's really good. Alright. Goodbye, Blood Crypt. Another Dragon Rage Channeler. I do not believe that I'm doing that right now. I don't really have that many cards that trigger these Dragon Rage Channelers now that I'm kind of getting a feel for the deck list. I guess I attack with this immediately, see if I get my 1 point of damage. I assume I am, but like Punishing Fire is a card that exists. Alright. Opponent's at 14. I'm at 11. Shock. I'm at 9. I play some respectable, but not massive, Death Shadows. But since I can Blood Crypt Shock myself next turn, they're pretty big. I'm probably putting my opponent on a 2-turn clock here. I imagine it's going to be relatively difficult for my opponent to draw any more cards with Sylvan Library over the course of this game. My Dragon Rage Channeler doesn't get to attack right now. My opponent will have a 2-2 if they activate Urza Saga. Eidolon. So I can't do anything to make my Dragon Rage Channeler bigger. Card is much worse without cantrips. Alright. Pay the life. I guess I will play out everything pre-combat. This way, if something like crop rotation is going to happen, I'll know about it ahead of time. Or if I force my opponent to use mana, then maybe they don't make an Urza Saga token. Okay. Once upon a time? What is this? 3 mana. Oh, it's an endurance. Sure. That very notably has reach. My graveyard just got cleared out, though, so that's not the best for me. 12 theoretical damage incoming. I think I want to throw this body away. See if my opponent takes all of this. I imagine not, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I sneak in 1 point of damage if my opponent is planning on chump blocking. Not like the Dragon Rage Channeler is good anyway. Maybe I should have attacked with it. Ooh, wow. Opponent took damage. Like a Glacial Chasm type card is going to save you here. Alright, opponent is floating mana. They could get like an Expedition map and search for a Glacial Chasm. Alright, there's map. Looks like they're gonna crack it immediately. Nope, okay. So that means they don't have Glacial Chasm that they can just sit on. That's good to know. Or at least they didn't in game 1. I'm going to assume in some capacity Alpine Moon will be okay. And Price of Progress feels gross. Meltdown is probably playable, but unexciting. Fireblast feels rough. A lot of times I think my life total my number of lands gets reduced to 0 or very close to it somewhat consistently. The Price of Progress is going in for those. Snuff Out is okay for Urza Saga tokens, and I guess technically also Endurance. Dragon Rage Channeler not feeling great versus Endurance, but I also don't know that it's worth boarding out. These Footfall Craters can probably go for the Meltdowns. Or maybe Alpine Moon and 2 meltdowns. I will buy that. Okay, my hand is full of reasonable cards. I'm kind of unexcited about the hand, generally speaking, but I don't know that my openers look much better than this on average. Junking Urza Saga. We loaming immediately? Oh, we're Urza Sagaing immediately. I'm going to be very far behind since my opponent has that Mox Diamond. This is awkward, because, like, I want to play Dragon Rage Channeler first and then play these cards, but I think I have to... maybe I don't have to Thoughtseize immediately. Alright. Crypt. Yes. If my opponent's going to just dedicate mana to Urza Saga anyway, I don't actually have to Thoughtseize this turn. I can double Thoughtseize next turn and then play Death Shadow. Like, that's respectable. Not insane, but respectable. Uh-huh. I don't care if I get Wastelanded, but you don't make an Urza Saga token. Like, that's fine with me. That feels like a win in my direction. Let's pull this last Blood Crypt out of my deck here. Docking down to 14. Thoughtseizing down to 12. Almost anything is just going into the graveyard here. 2 mana for crop rotation. That's fine. Tabernacle is annoying. Don't want more creatures. I'm about to get tabernacled. Logport Stage. Sure. I don't really get to use my mana super well here, but my opponent's hand kind of does nothing, at least as of right now. Yeah, Port's fine. I will go ahead and pay for my creature. My opponent's Rashad Port doesn't do anything immediately. I will shock with this. Play out a Death Shadow. Attack my opponent for 1. Even on future turns, like, I'm just going to pay for these creatures. My opponent's Port is effectively not doing anything. Stage is fine. Pay for these. And then we'll see what we draw. The basic swamp. Not super interested in that. Let's shock myself. I think Chain Lightning, my opponent, is the play here. That and above average draw. If I pay, and my opponent Rashad ports this, I can't actually cast this card, so I'm going to say that is a below average draw and just put that into my graveyard. My opponent notably does not have red here to bounce back the Chain Lightning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have played it. I'll bash in for 6. And this is nearly lethal next turn. I have 6, 7, 8 if I Thoughtseize. Oh, fuck me. Well, that probably beats me. But if I can make this fly post-combat, my opponent just plays Bojuka Bog and I lose to it. Oh, that sucks. I just get ported off my mana as well here. No, I don't get ported off my mana. I think I have to bluff. I think I make a bluff attack with Death Shadow. And see if my opponent's just willing to take this damage. They were not. I guess that's a bad bluff, right? Because they died a Lightning Bolt. Alright. Say Livy. Play this. Thoughtseize, target you. That can go into my graveyard. Still 3 types, though. So this is not turned on, so accordingly I am dead to the Merit Lodge. It's frustrating. Not a lot to be done there. I'm going to go ahead and submit the same deck as is. Possible I want one more Meltdown when I'm on the play. I'm going to get rid of, like, Vexing Devil for another Meltdown. Let's do that. I have a Price of Progress. I think that alone means that this hand is going to be worth keeping. That is just worth so much damage over time. Maybe not if my opponent goes to 5. Hopefully we see this card just be an absolute house here. I think I do start dealing the full amount of damage to myself here. I just take a Lava Axe to the face. Lightning Bolt is interesting. I think I take the Mox Diamond. Taking the Mox Diamond slows my opponent down so much here. Just keeps my opponent from playing Urza's Saga on turn 1. To deal a little bit of damage to my opponent. Double Lightning Bolt qualifies as a little bit of damage. So if I bolt myself this turn, I'm at 12. Take 6 from a Price of Progress at some point. That's probably okay. I'm going to play Scalding Tarn and pass. See what my opponent does. My opponent currently can't cast this Lightning Bolt, so that's something to keep in mind. And I think I'm going to plan on killing my opponent rather than just trying to control the game with double Lightning Bolt covering Urza's Saga. I think I'm more interested in this. Oh, especially with Snuff out there. So maybe I don't need to play my next land drop here. Like, I can just play this, be a 6/6. Yeah, I think I can just play this and not take more damage from my own Price of Progress. Rakdos is fine. This does tap for mana because of Yavimaya, so my opponent can make a 1/1 blocker that I can then get rid of. Okay. By Price of Progress myself, I take 4 damage. If I snuff out, that is 7 damage. My opponent currently takes 6 from Price of Progress, putting them at 8. Can I play Arid Mesa or Badlands? Make this thing bigger. Yes. I can. Which one? So if I play Arid Mesa, that's a Lightning Bolt. Is fine. Both of these are instants. Crash in. Oh, wow, my opponent didn't block. Deal 6 with Price of Progress and then kill my opponent. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, you may have your construct, but, like, we've already moved past blocks. So, yep, alright. GG's. Or why my opponent didn't just jump block. I mean, I guess maybe they could have been trying to kill me on my own turn. Alright, Footfall Crater. You can have your chance to shine. Let's hurt ourselves. Playing this game out like it's modern. 17. Dragon Rage Channeler. Bobble. Surveil. I think I'm supposed to just put that into my graveyard. Like, it's an above average draw. But I would very much like to turn this into a 3/3. My opponent's playing Scrubland. Maybe some sort of Dead Guy Ale type deck. Oh, opponent's a fan of the channel. Dead Guy Ale confirmed. Oh, hey, I found another one. That is very good for me. What do I have in the graveyard? Land creature artifact. And Footfall Crater and Chain Lightning next turn. Alright. This smells vaguely of Swords to Plowshares. No, if it was Swords to Plowshares and I were the opponent, I would have done it already so that I don't get more chances to surveil. But maybe it's not. Alright. Let's do this. I'm more or less always interested in casting Chain Lightning this turn, I believe. I don't think I want that. So this puts my opponent to 17. We'll attack them. So this is 14. Do I want my creatures to have trample and haste? No, I want more ways to hurt myself. I'm going to cycle this. Try to turn that into something more reasonable. Hey, there we go. That's another way to hurt myself. I'll absolutely accept that. And I think since my opponent's playing discard cards, in all likelihood, I wait until their turn to crack my bauble. I don't want to draw something spicy and then lose it to Thoughtseize or Hymn to Turok or whatever. My opponent's got baubles of their own. What are they doing? Like, I don't have a strong feeling for that yet. Look at some cards here. Opposition Agent. Okay, yeah, so maybe it is some sort of Dead Guy Ale-like deck. Take my card. Oh, Thoughtseize is fantastic. Believe this is pre-combat Thoughtseize. I will fetch in response to that. Okay, some sort of opposition agent type thing is coming, and I will shock here. Feels like this could be Sudden Edict pretty easily. Another basic planes. They've shown me opposition agent, though. Yeah, sure. Oh. Alright. Well, that's certainly spicy. Lightning Bolt. I will top that. Seems like a good finisher here. Oh, yeah, I will take your Solitude, 100%. Okay. So now I kind of know what's up on my opponent's side. Their remaining hand is quite weak. I guess I'm playing this one here. A 7/7 that is about to get bigger. It's about to be a 10/10. And my opponent's just dead to it in most worlds. I also just have 7 points of draw between Fireblast and Lightning Bolt. So, like, the brought back now makes sense. So my opponent's going to have, like, fetch lands, baubles, pitch elementals. They're going to get to hardcast a Grief here as a blocker. So that's going to resolve. My opponent's dead, whether I Fireblast them or Fireblast the Grief. I'll Fireblast the Grief. Okay, yep, opponent sees what's up. Okay. I now know what sort of spicy nonsense my opponent is on. Leyline of the Void. Do I want it? I don't not want it. Not excited about it either, but I think I'd probably play it. Recurring Solitudes is kind of a problem for me. I can probably get rid of the Footfall Craters for 3 of the 4 ley lines and then cut like a Vexing Devil. Still think Snuff Out's probably good enough. I'm a little unsure about this. My opponent has some more expensive cards. I think when I'm on the play, I will play some number of Inquisitions to try to hit like Ephemerates and Brought Back and things like that before they actually happen. This is a hand that I will go ahead and keep. It is a little land light, but Dragon Rage Channeler into Bauble is a very good start. I will be quite happy with that. More lands would be clutch, but hopefully the Surveil plus Bauble will get me to one. Hey, it's a land. I'll go ahead and top that, and I won't draw it until my opponent's turn. In case something like Hymn to Turok actually happens. What do you got, opponent? Bauble's fine. I could run into Dark Ritual Opposition Agent when I fetch on my turn. That is very much... Oh, there's an Opposition Agent leaving. Okay, like, my most important card is currently in exile. Or, sorry, is on the top of my library. I've lost my Thoughtseize. Are you ephemerating? Or not? Brought back could still happen. That's a white mana source. Yeah, it is brought back. So Grief does happen again. This is actually going to help me with my card types in Graveyard, though. For what it's worth. Another Grief coming. A little awkward for me, because, like, a little bigger than this. Oh god, and there's another one. Okay. So I'm playing this and fetching. I don't think I actually shocked myself here. I think I just grabbed Badlands. Because I'm not very good at blocking those Griefs, and I'm going to take more damage from Eidolon than my opponent is in most timelines, I think. Could be wrong. That's my gut feeling here, though. I don't know. We'll see. This game will end incredibly quickly. Like, in one direction or another, somebody's gonna die fast. Very afraid of Solitude. Alright. Opponent is remaining the beatdown here. I'm not willing to Fireblast that. And we're probably gonna see double fetch into Grief, I imagine. Yep. Yep, alright. Another scrub into Grief. Don't believe it is correct to Fireblast the first one here. Definitely a spooky situation, though. Oh, I lost the other Eidolon. Thought I was going to lose the Fireblast. Will I trade this for grief and be the person in the better position? Yes. Believe I will. Because I will be better able to actually utilize the cards in my hand. Alright. Opponent's at 9. Which is effectively 5. Is theoretical lethal next turn. I don't think I have to play my Vexing Devil out. Does more damage to my opponent than me. Maybe for that reason I do play it out. It's 2 to me, 4 to them. Yes, actually, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, I take 2. And we'll see if I get a 4-3 or if my opponent takes the 4 damage. Okay, my opponent took the 4 damage, meaning they are effectively at 1 life. I'm going to go ahead and play this apt. I'm on a 2-turn clock. My opponent is on a 1-turn clock. Land Solitude would be pretty backbreaking. My opponent hasn't cracked this Urza's Bauble the entire time. Fuck me. That gets to hit my flyer. Alright. So, my opponent 100% should have cracked that Urza's Bauble. If I Fire Blast my opponent's face, I win if I draw Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning, and I get to Surveil. I get Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and 2 looks to find them. I am thinking if there's any world where I Fire Blast the Solitude instead. I don't think there is. I think my opponent's 3 bodies just kill me next turn too much of the time anyway, especially since these have Menace. I think we're going Fire Blast at the face. Alright. Surveil. Hell yeah. Top it. Right, I gain 3. I'm up to 15. I take 6. Is fine. That puts me at 9, which would be lethal next turn if not for a blocker. But luckily, I have topped the Chain Lightning here. Yeah, so my opponent was presumably holding Urza's Bauble back or a brought back. But I think like maximizing the chances that they get a big play like Solitude is way more important given how tight that race was. Alright, I am keeping a very strong double Dragon Rage Channeler hand here. Oh, I'm going to let my opponent cast their spell. Okay, we're playing against Merfolk. I made a couple of small changes to the deck list. I added 1 Polluted Delta and 4 Urza's Baubles over the 3 enchantments and the 2 Vexing Devils. While this will make this card worse, I think it'll smooth out the rest of the deck quite a bit. We can also count on my opponent to do some amount of damage to us this game. I'm not sure how hyper-aggressive I want to be at hurting myself. I think I'm actually just going to lead on a mountain, given that my plan next turn is cast Dragon Rage Channeler and 1 Thoughtseize. Ooh, Daze is very good here. Like, my plan for next turn doesn't change, but that is a very good tempo hit for me. Or, that's not the best way to phrase that, but my opponent, good tempo. Me, bad tempo. Grab a basic. Probably grab a basic, given how this hand looks right now. Alright, there's Swamp. Here's new Dragon Rage Channeler. Thoughtseize will be the 3rd card type in the graveyard. I'm looking for big booty creatures right now. That is a big booty creature. I will top that. Glenalandra. What year is it? I have to take Deputy of Detention here. This is Glenalandra Riptide Lab. This is some wild shit. I love it. Now, being conservative with my life total in these first couple of turns means that my Death Shadow is a little bit less good than it otherwise might be. I think that's going to be okay for me. Alright, let's bring the pain, shall we? Blood Crypt and shock myself. I would be fine with Thoughtseize getting countered. I'm going to take 4 this turn. I just play Thoughtseize, Death Shadow. That's probably better than playing this, hemorrhaging a bunch of life into it. Alright, so let's Thoughtseize. Most things that aren't creatures are just going back here. That can go into my graveyard. That turns us into a 3/3 flyer this turn. My opponent will put in their Hexcatcher. Alright. Opponent has Caracas and Riptide Lab. I'm a-okay playing one of these, hitting my opponent for 3. Fair enough. Fair enough. This is sort of a tough to evaluate opening hand because I have no threat. I have really good disruption and I can hurt myself a lot. I think I'm gonna keep this one. But this one's legitimately difficult to evaluate. On my opponent's 6, my Thoughtseizes are probably gonna feel very good. Ooh, unless there's just... Or no, I can just bolt an Elvish Reclaimer if that's what's happening. There's a Nettle Sentinel. I don't think I bolt that. I think I let that hit me, because I think that actively helps me along. I guess it's awkward if there's multiple Birchlow Rangers. My opponent loves the content. You're also in a video. Oh yeah, now I especially leave this there. Alright. Ow. Thoughtseize you. I will take the green sun here. And then I can clean up next turn. My opponent will hit me to 14. I will shock myself down to 11, play Death Shadow, and Lightning Bolt one of my opponent's creatures. Yeah, this is my opponent didn't play Heritage Druid. So I guess I take it. Yeah, I guess I take it. Blood Crypt. Shock myself to 11. Miss this. Thoughtseize my opponent. Take the Heritage Druid. Oh, I see they are holding up a Boseiju or potentially fetching Dryad Arbor. I play out a Death Shadow and Mishra's Bauble. I guess I actually... Oh, okay, I'm going to get an opportunity now. My opponent can find Dryad Arbor here. I'm going to Bauble my opponent now to give myself a chance to draw exactly Snuff Out as a relevant piece of interaction. I did not. But this is a hell of a turn next turn. Play Mountain, play DRC off of it, and then throw 6 damage at my opponent's face, or alternatively, blow up multiple creatures. This is going to be very strong. My opponent not willing to use the green sun here. Alright. Land drop. Dragon Rage Channeler. Let's not randomly die to natural order, huh? Alright. Surveil. Land goes to Yard. Dryad Arbor is dead. Make Gaia's Cradle worse. I think make Gaia's Cradle worse using Lightning Bolt is the plan. Guess I can attack with my 4/4 now. Yaw. Alright, opponent's at 14. I'm going to Lightning Bolt in their upkeep because I want to see if they fetch Dryad Arbor here. If they fetch Dryad Arbor here, I kill it with Bolt. Nice. It's all coming together. Yes, this is an above average draw. I will top that. Opponent's Green Sun for 0 also now can't get a Dryad Arbor. Okay, Boseiju has been forced out as a land drop. Okay, there's the concession. It's possible my opponent could have played out this Green Sun and had a slightly better position, but my hand was very well equipped to beat what they were doing. My sideboard, on the other hand, is very much not equipped to beat them. So there's no Pyroclasm effects here. There's nothing of that nature. No Electrickeries. So the 1-for-1s that I did this game are probably not going to hold up once my opponent can get, like, Elvish Visionary Chains going. I have to figure out how I'm going to beat my opponent in those circumstances. I might be resubmitting the game 1 deck. Like, I can play Inquisitions, but I don't know that more discard actually makes me better, and Inquisition notably misses Natural Order. I think I just kind of hope things work out. Yeah, I like this hand just fine. It has 2 early removal spells and can get to Death Shadow relatively quickly. I'm on board with this. Forest into Wirewood. That's fine. I think I just kind of kill things immediately when I can, for Gaia's Cradle-based reasons. And I can snuff out whatever my opponent plays this turn. 4 life, so that'll be 13. Yeah, I can play Death Shadow next turn if I want. Which is real cool. Got basics. Feels like Green Sun, given the pause here. What the hell is this? Is this the Lord? Oh, cool, it's the Lord. I don't need to snuff out immediately. I'm probably casting snuff out the vast majority of the time, but there are some draws that reward me for waiting. So totally happy with that. Blood Crypt, Jock, Dragon Rage Channeler, snuff out playing the life, absolutely go to graveyard. This actually feels good, folks. Like, this is going to attack as a 5/5 next turn. I'll have an Eidolon in play, so Glimpse Chains are unrealistic, and I have Fireblast available as well. This was blistering. Like, there's still stuff that can go wrong. Like, my opponent can just make another land drop and cast Natural Order, and, like, I can die, but I feel powerful as of right now. If my opponent casts Natural Order, I am probably dead. I think I just end up getting hyper aggressive with Fireblast and try to kill my opponent here. Blood Crypt, play this out. My opponent could have some sort of Abrupt Decay type card. Like, that is a thing that is allowed to happen. I would absolutely trade Dragon Rage Channeler for Dryad Arbor as of right now. But we're going to go ahead and crash on in. Alright, good stuff. Opponent's at 12. I've got Fire Blast up. I will Fire Blast a Dryad Arbor. Like, it is nobody's fucking business if my opponent does it. They did not. Is this the end? I can deal 3 damage to myself, putting myself to 4. I don't die to an Endurance if I do that. I do have another Blood Crypt in there, so that in theory is fine. Yeah. Is an Endurance. My opponent can nuke my graveyard. I'm just supposed to Fire Blast this thing here, because then I just have lethal on board. Target you. Sacrifice double Blood Crypt. Alright, and that is the match. Alright, so let's kind of talk about this deck a little bit to go ahead and wrap up this video here. I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I'm ultimately happy with the changes that I made to the deck list. While many baubles can be awkward with this card, like because you will deal extra damage to yourself, sometimes that extra damage is good, and any initial baubles that you have a couple turns to clear them out before you're actually going to want to play this card. So I think that exchange is okay. I feel much more comfortable after being on 19 lands and 8 baubles than I did with the original 18 lands, 4 baubles. The enchantment that we started with cycled. This feels a lot smoother. Overall, this strategy is better than I expected it would be, but let's keep in mind that we were playing games in the tournament practice room today, so a lot of the decks are, experimental, just like this one is, and the caliber of player isn't necessarily going to be quite as high in there. So while I wouldn't necessarily expect as high of results as I got today in a league, I think this deck is totally respectable in a league environment. Like, I would not be embarrassed to play this deck list. That said, you can really feel the difference in power between Dragon Rage Channeler in the Blue-Red Delver and Dragon Rage Channeler in this shell. In this shell, we can't just go cantrip into cantrip into cantrip off the same card and just really fuel that graveyard immediately. My Dragon Rage Channelers were a 1/1 for very large portions of the game, and I think that gets better after I'm playing more baubles. But ultimately, since you don't have like Ponder into Brainstorm, into EI, and other similar lines, the Dragon Rage Channelers are a little bit worse here than they are in blue decks. Not that I think you should go into another color here if you're trying to do this. I'm just throwing it out there. Scourge of the Skyclaves was very strong today. Very happy with this card. Generally speaking, it felt better than Death Shadow to me. But in a vacuum, I do think Death Shadow is the easier to enable card since it only cares about your own life total, not also the life total of your opponent. But Scourge as the backup plan was very strong here. I'm very happy with the sideboard. It just feels kind of rock solid in terms of the things that I have access to. I maybe don't have some generic cards to side in, but once I took the worst cards out of the main deck in order to sort of refine the deck list, I felt less obligated to pull cards out of my deck every time. Um, Maybe there's some other options for the sideboard stuff. So like I don't really have anything for fair creature decks. So maybe over the 2 Pyroblasts, I want like 2 Plague Engineers or something like that. Like I could see that as reasonable. But I enjoyed playing this deck list a lot. Like this was a fun couple of hours recording this. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on your way out. Helps out a lot. If you have any thoughts about the deck list, throw those in the comments. I do always read those, even if I don't respond to every single one. I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.